The Galveston hurricane of 1900, often called the Great Galveston Storm, was one of the most catastrophic natural disasters in American history, claiming between 6,000 and 12,000 lives. Most historians agree on around 8,000, making it the deadliest hurricane ever to strike the United States. The tragedy unfolded on September 8, 1900, when a massive storm, born from a tropical disturbance in the Atlantic Ocean, reached its full destructive power as it slammed into the island city of Galveston, Texas. At the turn of the century, Galveston was a thriving port city, known for its grand Victorian architecture, busy harbor, and reputation as the Wall Street of the Southwest. Its economy was booming thanks to trade, shipping, and finance, and the city's population of roughly 37,000 believed they were living in one of the most modern and prosperous places in America. However, this sense of confidence would soon turn into a nightmare. The storm had begun forming off the western coast of Africa in late August 1900, following a path typical of many Atlantic hurricanes. It passed through the Caribbean, causing heavy rains and flooding in Cuba, where local meteorologists, more experienced in tropical storms, warned that the system was likely to head toward Texas. However, the U.S. Weather Bureau, based in Washington, D.C., ignored these warnings and predicted instead that the storm would veer northeast toward Florida. At the time, meteorology was a developing science, and the technology for tracking storms, such as satellites or radar, did not exist. Communication between regions relied heavily on telegraph lines, many of which were damaged or slow to relay information. As a result, Galveston received little warning of the approaching catastrophe. By the morning of September 8th, the weather in Galveston had already turned ominous. Winds were strengthening, and the tide was unusually high. Residents noticed water from the Gulf creeping into the streets, but many remained unconcerned. People had experienced tropical storms before and believed the raised barrier dunes would protect the island. Nevertheless, some, including the city's chief meteorologist, Isaac Klein, began to recognize the severity of the situation and urged residents to seek higher ground. By the afternoon, it was too late. The winds intensified rapidly, exceeding 100 miles per hour, and by evening, they reached an estimated 145 miles per hour, classifying the hurricane as a modern-day Category 4. The barometric pressure dropped dramatically to 28.48 inches of mercury, the lowest ever recorded in the United States at that time, confirming the storm's immense power. As night fell, a 15-foot storm surge swallowed most of the island. Entire neighborhoods vanished beneath the raging sea as giant waves crashed over the city. Houses, many made of wood, were ripped apart and carried inland, forming deadly debris walls that crushed everything in their path. Families sought refuge in churches, schools, and large buildings, but few structures could withstand the storm's fury. Survivors later recalled the sound of the wind as a constant, deafening roar mixed with the cries of people calling for help. Telegraph lines and bridges were destroyed, isolating Galveston from the mainland and preventing any outside assistance during the height of the disaster. By dawn on September 9th, the city was unrecognizable. More than 3,600 homes had been obliterated, leaving thousands homeless. The dead lay everywhere, some buried under rubble, others washed into the Gulf or trapped in wreckage. The smell of decay soon filled the air, and with no means to bury so many bodies quickly, survivors resorted to burning corpses in huge pyres along the beaches to prevent outbreaks of disease. Relief efforts were hampered by destroyed roads and telegraph lines, and the first rescue teams did not arrive until days later. When help finally came, the scenes of devastation shocked the entire nation. Despite the immense tragedy, the people of Galveston showed remarkable resilience. Under the leadership of civic officials and engineers, the city began an ambitious rebuilding effort. One of the most significant projects was the construction of a massive seawall, 17 feet high and over 10 miles long, designed to protect the island from future storm surges. Additionally, the entire elevation of the city was raised by as much as 17 feet in some areas, using sand pumped from the Gulf. These engineering feats became models for coastal protection worldwide and demonstrated Galveston's determination to survive. However, the hurricane had permanently changed the city's destiny. Before the storm, Galveston had been poised to become the major economic center of the Gulf Coast. Afterward, the city's importance declined sharply as investors and shipping companies shifted to Houston, which was safer and more accessible thanks to the construction of the Houston Ship Channel. Galveston never fully regained its former prominence, though it remained an important cultural and historical site. In the broader sense, the Galveston hurricane of 1900 marked a turning point in meteorology and disaster management. The immense loss of life revealed the urgent need for improved storm prediction and communication systems. The U.S. Weather Bureau began modernizing its methods, adopting better observation networks, and eventually, decades later, radar and satellite technology. The tragedy also highlighted the importance of respecting natural forces and preparing cities for the worst possible scenarios. Even today, the memory of that terrible night endures as a haunting reminder of human vulnerability and nature's overwhelming power. The Galveston hurricane remains not only a story of destruction, but also one of courage, innovation, and rebirth in the face of unimaginable loss.